welcome back to our journey into leadership. I'm your host, Andrea Gasparo, and today we are going to be discovering what are the traits that best suit us to be leaders. There are different styles of leadership that we're going to take a look at and discuss, but one thing that we have to reiterate over and over again is that leadership is not one size fits all. And just because there's a little bit of one style of leadership that sounds like you, maybe the entire format of it doesn't fit who you are as a person. And so the good thing about these leadership styles is you can kind of tweak them and make it your own style of leadership. So let's go in, jump in, and start exploring the different styles of leadership. In our past two episodes, we went over the traits that make a good leader. That we identified a couple of recurring traits that leaders often have that are just identified. And so I just want to do a quick little review of what those leadership traits are that we can identify in ourselves or try to foster within ourselves. Of course, confidence is the number one. You have to be able to present yourself well. You have to be articulate. You have to know what you're talking about. And having that confidence is going to tell everyone that you're somebody who's trustworthy, that they can depend on. So, that confidence is going to allow people to trust you. And so confidence can take you a long way. The other is kindness. We talked about empathy, understanding where people are coming from. It's like the idea of sometimes a teenager or somebody who's looking for guidance. The first thing they're going to respond to is somebody's kindness or empathy to their situation, understanding where they're coming from, being able to make that connection. So for sure, confidence, but empathy and kindness are traits that are often found in leaders. Good communication skills, being able to use a lot of different vocabulary, being able to talk to a wide variety of people on their level is an amazing skill. Being able to talk in front of large groups of people is a tough skill to acquire, but it's also, part of that good communication, making eye contact with people, talking clearly and loud enough that everyone can hear you. That all falls into, also confidence is also, something to spell. Confidence is also part of that good communication or conveying messages clearly. Another skill that we see a lot of leaders have is problem solving. Being able to identify a problem and coming up with a solution for that problem. Being, different types of learning styles, working with people through teamwork is going to allow you to get creative and develop different styles of problem solving. So not just being able to find, there's something to complain about, there's an issue, that's a problem, but also coming up with a solution to the problem. So there's a lot of people out there that are quick to identify a problem, but how many people can find a solution to that problem? For me personally, I was, back in school, horrible at math. But I can point out all day long that I'm not good at math. I'm horrible at bookkeeping. I can't balance a checkbook. Not that anyone does that anymore. But I can't, see numbers in my head. What's the solution to that problem? I have to utilize a calculator. I need to make sure I can write numbers down so I can see them visually. There's a lot of different ways that I can solve my problems with being a poor numbers person. That's a leader, that's a mentor, someone who's going to not only just recognize, okay, there's an issue here, but they're also going to come up with the solution to the problem. So being a leader isn't pointing out the mistakes. Being a leader is seeing the area where that needs to be fixed, and then coming up with a solution for that problem. Another one is, of course, leaders need to be honest. They need to have integrity. Those are definite traits that we see in a lot of leaders that we admire. Someone who's courageous and a visionary. Those are also traits that we want to identify in leaders. So last time we talked about what was a quality in yourself that you saw that would help you develop into a leader. So, if you are someone who is naturally empathetic and you naturally show kindness, then I would encourage you to seek out relationships that encourage and allow you to explore that even further. If you're someone who maybe that confidence isn't quite there, which is very normal for preteens, teenagers, even young adults, to not have confidence. And it's a thing of, I can't give you confidence. A person can't give you confidence. You have to develop it within yourself. So finding opportunities that allow you to do public speaking or to challenge yourself to maybe talk to that person in your class who you never speak to. Those are little things that are going to boost your confidence, and that makes it easier to do those actions later. The more you do them in small increments, a little bit at a time, eventually you're going to climb the mountain one step at a time. So identifying your strengths is important, but also identifying your weaknesses and coming up with a solution so that you can overcome those weaknesses and make them one of your strengths. For me, I'm a natural introvert, and that means I don't love big crowds of people. I don't do small talk. It's really difficult for me. But as an educator, as a teacher, a big part of my job is talking to groups of people, like students, or, when I'm talking to parents at different school events, small talk is involved. I find those things very difficult. And so I have to practice those things. I have to practice those skills. And it's really funny that I've met a lot of people who are coworkers of mine, who have been like, "You're an introvert? No way. You are so confident and you're so, outgoing and you're not afraid of anything and you hold yourself so well." And I'm like, thanks. I practice that. I have to work hard at conveying this idea of confidence, of knowing what I'm talking about, of being friendly and outgoing, someone who's easy to approach. Those are things that did not come naturally to me. I'm naturally someone who doesn't want to stand out in the crowd, who wants to stand in the back of the classroom, or stand off to the side. That's my natural instinct, but I also know that with my goals in life, that wasn't possible. I need to be able to go out there and meet people and share my love of learning with people. I can't do that from the sidelines. So identifying the traits that make you a leader, very important, but also finding the weaknesses and what can you do to start to little by little work on those weaknesses until they become your strength. So now we're going to talk about different leadership styles. It's important to think about, as we discuss the different styles of leadership, how these can empower you to create a natural and effective way of being a leader. Consider the traits that I go over that are associated with each leadership style, and find out which ones, and I'm thinking there's going to be more than one that fits you or suits your style. Okay? So the first one we're going to talk about is called a democratic leader. A democratic leader has strong traits that are in collaboration, communication. They're really good at including others in activities, and they value others' input. So a democratic leader really thrives in collaborating. They're going to be the ones who pull the group together, and they might delegate tasks or identify tasks that need to be done. They're good at creating lists, but they want to make sure that everybody is involved in the process and everyone has the opportunity to contribute. So when we think about a democratic leader, there's someone who sees other people. They're going to identify their strengths and how those strengths are going to be utilized to get a project done. Okay, so a democratic leader has to be able to make those connections with others. They have to be empathetic. They need to be kind, but they also have to have some sort of confidence as well, so that they can be the person in the group that everyone else relies on, and maybe they confide in. Everyone in this democratic style of leadership understands they have a role to perform, and that's why they have been chosen to be part of the group. There's a strength there that is being recognized by that leader and is going to be valued for that. So democratic leaders tend to make you feel good about yourself. So that it's an amazing style of leadership, but if you're going to use a democratic leadership style, it is about seeing everyone in your group and seeing what makes them special, and letting them shine. You don't have to be the center of attention. You find your own pleasure and you find your own sense of accomplishment in the end product, because your focus is also on how to help everyone work together so that the end product can be accomplished. So yeah, that's a really, really fantastic style of leadership. It's a little harder because you do have to keep track of all the balls that are in the air. If you're saying, good communication over here, marketing over there, just different strengths from all these people. You have to keep track of them, and understand what tasks you've delegated to them to make sure that everyone is meeting deadlines. But that kind of is the strength of a democratic leader. Everyone feels like they're part of the group and that they value their input is valued and is important. So democratic leaders, they teach everyone that their voice matters, and decision making is a shared responsibility. It does not fall solely on a single person. So, are you a democratic leader? So what kind of leader can be considered a visionary? They focus on growth. They focus on inspiring others to make changes within themselves. They focus on developing an individual to help them reach their goals. I like to think that I'm this type of leader. As a teacher, as a friend, I love to think that I am a transformational leader. The reason why I think transformational leadership is so important is because it allows you to identify growth opportunities in yourself and in others. When you're thinking about transformational leadership, you are the motivator. You're the charismatic one of your group, but you also inspire others to greatness. So a transformational leader is usually someone who is going to be an educator or a motivational speaker or something that has to deal with, change and development. So yeah, they're very much focused on growth opportunities, looking for, as a kind of like the democratic leader. There's someone they're like the democratic leader. They are people who are going to recognize people's strengths and weaknesses, and then help them grow as individuals. So as a teacher, I definitely see myself as a transformational leader. I'm always looking at my students' growth potential. I monitor where they start the year off, and where they end the year off, and I'm hoping to see growth throughout the year, and I want to find ways to help them to reach their goals or to develop more as individuals, find what they're struggling with and give them opportunities to overcome those struggles. So that's why I think that as an educator, I'm a transformational leader. So yeah, that's pretty, I like to say that's a pretty cool one to use. But it doesn't mean that I only use transformational leadership as my particular style. The second style of leadership that I use in my leadership style would be coaching leadership. As an educator, as a teacher, I coach my students. A coaching leadership style looks a lot like mentorship. So maybe you don't only see these leaders in classrooms, but you might see them in youth groups, after school programs, those programs that are like Big Brother, Big Sister organizations, things where you're working one-on-one with people, coaching them to achieve their goals is a style of leadership that again is going to look at traits that are collaborating with someone, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, motivating them to grow. You're going to be developing support systems for them. You're very focused on how you can support their growth, what your role is in their development as a coaching style of leadership. If you think about your softball coach, your baseball coach, your basketball coach, your football coach, any kind of your volleyball coach, what's their job? Their job is to teach you a skill and then give you the opportunity to apply those skills in real life situations, games. So a coaching leadership is so relevant to young people's lives because we see that style in a coach. And I think we all can identify, that really amazing coach that helped you develop your skills and took you to the next level, versus maybe that coach that wasn't so great and maybe they yelled and shouted a lot and didn't really make you feel like you were developing a skill. Maybe I always gotta have my own little stories, right? So I remember when I was little, I'm not an athletic person. I enjoy sports, don't enjoy playing them, but as any good parents would, my parents put me in a little softball league, and I had this coach that would just yell at us the entire practice. And it really was not an enjoyable situation. If you didn't master a skill quickly, you were going to get yelled at. There was always a punishment associated to his coaching. And for me, that just wasn't the style of leadership that I needed. I needed someone who's more encouraging, someone who's going to be patient with me. That coaching style there wasn't necessarily very supportive. It was more autocratic, where it's like very direct, and there's consequences associated with awards. That's not the kind of coaching or leadership style that I respond to. So that there's that good coach and bad coach kind of memories that are associated with it. So making sure that you're finding the right leadership style that works for you and your personality trait, but also that works for those who you're working with. So that's, back to the beginning of the episode where I talked about how this is not a one style fits all kind of thing, or, you're identifying as a transformational leadership, therefore you can't use any other style. That's just not true. Okay. You also have to adapt to your surroundings, adapt to the people you're working with, and what they respond to is going to be the style that you need to know, which is why you need to know what are all the variety of different types of leadership. And even though we're not going to hit all of them, I'm trying to stick more to the positive ones that are more actually accessible, applicable to a young person's life, versus somebody who's trying to take over corporate America or something like that, is trying to, be a Fortune 500 company leader. leadership style. Not necessarily going to tackle those, but more for your own personal growth as you enter, college. So coaching leadership, going back to that, is important for somebody who is a mentor, someone who you're gonna find in like your youth groups, working with young people. You usually tend to be coaching them. You don't necessarily want to tell them exactly what to do. You just want to support them in their goals. Okay, so that style was a coaching style of leadership. The last style of leadership I want to talk about is collaborative leadership. Again, there's so many more styles of leadership. There's laissez-faire leadership, there's servant leadership, there's autocratic leadership. There's so many styles, but I'm just trying to find the ones that you might actually get to use, let's say in a middle school, high school classroom, or at your youth group, or on your sports team. So the final one that we're going to go over is collaborative leadership. When you collaborate with somebody, you're talking teamwork, right? So teamwork makes the dream work. You're talking about trust, building those relationships. You're talking about shared decision making, very much like a democratic leader. These traits are going to cross over into each other a lot. So a collaborative leadership style is going to be pulling those strengths from all the different people, all the members of the team, and making sure that we reach our goals. So does that sound familiar? It should. They're really big on building strong teams, building solid foundations for everyone to grow upon, solving the problem. They're very problem oriented, but in the sense of finding a solution. So they are problem solvers, but they determine that the best way to solve those problems is by working as a team, so not as an individual. So the only way that these problems can be solved that they're identifying, they have to work as a team in order to achieve it. So collaborative leadership, really strong if you ever have like a group project. If you're doing a science project in class for science maybe, or a speech and debate class, where you're gonna have to work with other people. The problem is you have to tackle this assignment, right? You have to get this assignment done. But you have to work with a group of individual learners, and maybe you all have your own individual strengths, but maybe you don't know what they are. So that collaborative leader is going to recognize that we all have to contribute something to this project in order to get a grade on it. So what can you do? Are you a good artist? Great, because you can do the project board. Are you really good at typing? Great, you can type all of our research together and put it into an essay paragraph format. You're great at research? Great, you can help us, guide us through the research part of this project. You're a great public speaker. You're going to present our ideas to the class or to the teacher. So identifying everyone's strength and how they can work together to solve the problem is a strong collaborative leader. So that is a strong or common leadership style that you'll actually get to use as you get into like high school and college. So there's a couple that I've thrown at you right now that really you could start using now. And I hope that you can kind of see the traits that are in you that you can go, I see which leadership style I have. So as we close off today's episode, my challenge for you is to kind of go through each style of leadership that we discussed today and think about your strengths and how you would be able to utilize those leadership styles in different situations that maybe you're going through. If you're on a volleyball team or softball team or basketball team, how can you be a team leader? That's something that I tell my own children that's something they need to work on. Sports is very important as you grow into an adult. Taking care of your mental health, your physical health through sports is a great way, but also building relationships with people can happen through sports that you participate in. So thinking about how can you be a leader on your team, whether it be, doesn't matter, soccer, football. How can you be a leader in your classroom? Like I said, you're going to do a project with a group of kids that maybe you don't know their strengths and weaknesses. How do you figure out what their strengths are? And how can you help them use their great assets so that you can accomplish a goal? Maybe you do have a friend who's struggling at something at school or at home, and personal growth is needed. How can you be a mentor for them? How can you reach out and show them, I can help you through this, or we can find the resources to help you through this, or showing them a little empathy and kindness. Those are just ways that, again, doesn't matter what your age, doesn't matter if you're, in middle school or high school. Leaders are needed in all areas of our lives. So who is a leader that you look up to, and what is the style that they use that you respond to? Understanding also the type of leadership that you like, that you respond to, can help you, build relationships with others. If you can identify, hey, you seem to be a collaborative leader. I thrive in that area. I think we could work really well together. Hey, you seem to be transformational leadership style. That's not something that I actually respond to. I don't like to share my personal growth stories as an individual, but I am skill focused instead. How can my skills help this team to grow and transform? So those are things that you identifying in yourself, you can communicate that to others, maybe a teacher or a coach, and you can say, hey, the best way to communicate with me is to use this style of leadership. Or, hey, the way I can be a leader on this team is if I use this style of leadership. So think about what kinds of leadership styles that you've seen in your life, and which ones you've responded to in a positive way and which ones you've responded to in a negative way. I'd love to hear which ones you've seen in yourself, okay? Thank you so much for joining me this week. Keep exploring these journeys into leadership, and I'll see you next week with another fun discussion. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.